This episode is sponsored by Phrase Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shape of buffaloes. Every buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has its own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at phraseflowers.com. That's F-R-A-S-E flowers.com. Or check them out on their Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life with Phrase Flowers. What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, February 28th, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil, episode 338. I don't even know if I want to bring this up because we couldn't stop laughing. It took us 15 to 20 minutes just to do the Phrase Flowers intro because Phil brought up a video before we even started. I had never seen it. He wasn't watching it. It just kept running through his head. And he kept laughing. And normally, for background behind the scenes here, we hit the start button. We let it roll for a minute. So then in post, all the boring stuff, I can get the background noise out. And then we do the intro with Phrase Flowers. Then I hit the start button. We couldn't get through the intro without laughing. Like every time we broke, Phil had to minimize the screen so he couldn't see me. The only way I was able to get through my part was I was able to take our pictures and put it off screen, but I was still able to hit the intro button to play it and then bring them back up. But that was the longest we've ever gone trying to start a show in the 4 years of this. We've done 300. This is episode 338. We've done drafts. We've done other things. So we're close to 375, 380 episodes total. That was the longest it ever took us to start an actual episode. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I have calmed down finally. Now that we're in the episode and talking about the Sabres, I'm sure will suck any life out of my soul, even though they're winning. So that'll help quite a bit. But yeah, that was interesting. We've never really had that big of an issue starting an episode ever. And even it kind of takes me back to hypothetical history because that was a little bit more of a goofy show and it got a little funny at times, but nothing like that.
Yeah.
Wild start.
We both were, if we look a little red or flush, we were literally crying trying to start this. There's video. We saved both of these. We went for 15 minutes the first one. And we were like, okay, let's, instead of just trying to delete all this, let's just stop it. It'll save. We'll have it. And we're like, okay, we're good. And then it took us another 5 minutes to start this one. So we're already, according to our background here, 9 minutes into the episode, and we got the guy going like, get off the stage. So we'll start this one. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective. Yeah, we're still on TikTok. We're still posting. Our reels go up there nonstop. So go follow us there. I think we're up to 12 whole followers on TikTok.
Yes.
Nailing it. We're also on X and Blue Sky, Buffalo Sports Co. Go follow us there. You can follow us on our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. We're literally everywhere, including YouTube. You can see our very red, crying faces in the flesh. We'll probably post that video where we just can't do the intro. It's going to be fun. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article dropped on Tuesday breaking down the San Diego game. He does very in-depth, especially the goalie breakdown. So if you think Matt Vince is too old and dried up, no, go read Phil's article. Half the time it's not on Matt Vince. Remember, other shooters are really good. You can also check out my article that dropped on Thursday for the Power Rankings Week 14. It's a tier-based one now. Buffalo and Saskatchewan are just high and above everybody else. You can check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites, or just go to the website I already mentioned, buffalosportscollective.com. You just hit the shop tab at the top of the website. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Sabres. I know when you're listening to this right now, the Sabres are don't know if they won or lost. They're down 3-1 after the first period, but Tuesday, we'll talk about that one because as of this moment, the Sabres have not won or lost the Thursday game. They won versus the Ducks 3-2, but Turka, Tuck, and Yoki scored. UPL, 16 of 18 saves. Shots were 37-18 in favor of Buffalo. They were 0-3 on the power play, but they were down 2-0 going into the third period. I think it was huge to score with less than 2 minutes into the third because it got them going. They've won 6 of 7, and I'm still going to have my mantra. They will never make playoffs, so I am in a good mood because winning 6 of 7 is massive. Even going 0 for 3 on the power play, you still found a way to win. This is a different team that finds ways to win. Alex Tuck said it in the locker room that, hey, maybe early December, we would have lost this one 5-1. But we found a way to battle back. You get Peterka back going, Tuck's up to 20 goals on the season now, and the superstar of the Four Nations, who maybe he'll get traded, Yoki Haru, is up to 3 goals. So I like their gutsy win off of this one, regardless of the Ducks as your opponent, and they didn't really have their starting goaltender. I don't care. A win's a win. You won 3-2, you battled back, and you've won 6 of 7. Credit to the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, and without their starting goaltender, I thought they had the correct strategy, as you see in the shot totals, 37-18. I think when it's a backup, it's best to not you're not necessarily looking for the highest quality shots. You're looking for just getting a lot in there, a lot on target, and kind of hoping they fall through. Took them until the third period to do so, but you saw some of the goals. They were a little bit backup goaltender-y. So, when you're going up against that, they found a way to score those kind of goals against the backup, and I think that is good. Good to see them kind of switch their strategy. Not great to see 18 shots to 37, and you still only won 3-2, but overall, like you said, 6 of 7 is huge. Trying to stay as positive as possible. We're not going to yell at them this episode, so 6 of 7 is something that if you told me, like you said, like December, that they would have ever won 6 of 7, I don't think they'd be able to do it. They often don't get to 2 wins in a row, let alone 3, let alone 4. So 6 of 7 is really, really impressive. So they are on a bit of a heater, and hopefully they can turn the game around that they're in and keep it going.
Yeah, they're 2-0 since the break. And Lindy Ruff said, we want 7 points out of 10 in 5-game segments. They've got 4 of 4 right now. Yes, Carolina's game's not going well right now, but even this one, they were going 2-0 going into the third, and they were able to battle back and get those important 2 points. So I think their mission right now is to get back to 500 in the standings, get back to, now they're sitting 24, 27, and 5 with 53 points. Maybe, the record's definitely going to be different when you're listening to this. This is kind of old news because they're playing Thursday night, but I think their main goal is, on top of getting 7 out of 10 points each 5-game segment, is to get back to the 500 mark. And if you're able to do that, I think last I saw, Ottawa's in that last wild card spot, and they're on pace for 89 points. If you're able to do the 7 out of 10 and then win those last 3 games, I think it gives them 90. So theoretically, they can still get into this. And I was on Talking Buffalo earlier this week, I believe it was. It was a busy week. I believe I was there, and he was talking about the trade deadline and do you want to be moving pieces or whatnot. I was like, I'm tired of them moving pieces. I would like them to acquire pieces, not to give the quote-unquote motivational, I believe in you in the locker room, and not the, I think you can make the playoffs. It's more about adding pieces to this team to take the next step, because Kevin Adams has done a halfway decent job of bringing in talent. The Jason Zuckers in free agency, the Bo Byrams, the Benson in the draft. You got Yoki Haru, who looks like a good player. I'm sorry, not Yoki Haru. I'm hoping to trade Yoki Haru. Kulik. So he's brought in and acquired good players. It's just everything's not being put together right. So, and I even listened to I think it was Elliot Friedman put out that, Sabres are involved in every single talk, which is great. But then they say, since the Eichel and the Reinhart, they might be a little gun shy on actually pulling the trigger here because they don't want to be bit in the butt by whatever bigger name they ship out, like a Dylan Cousins or an Alex Tucker, so on and so forth, ends up going and winning a Stanley Cup. That, to me, is like the palm tree argument, that you're more worried about what other people think about your franchise rather than making your franchise better. Like, if you're worried that if you trade Dylan Cousins, he's going to go out and win a championship, who cares? If your team got better, who cares? Like, yes, it's funny that Jack Eichel and Ryan O'Reilly and Sam Reinhart and Brandon Montour go on and win championships, but the deal for Sam Reinhart is still left to be open. Is Devin Levi a legit 1A goaltender? If he is, I think he probably won the trade. But I just, you can't be afraid to make trades based on what the player that you're shipping out might end up accomplishing in his career. So to me, if you're able to add a guy with depth that doesn't have a no trade clause on their contract that has 2 or 3 years left, like I gave the example, like an Alex Tuck coming in who might be able to take his game to the next level playing on a higher line than he was playing elsewhere, bring him in. Like, make a trade. Don't be afraid to not make a trade or to make a trade based on what you think that player might accomplish in his career.
So with that in mind, what teams are you going after? Other teams that are below you that are sellers?
Well, there's not very many people below you, but
right. But in general, are you going after, I mean, even if they're not below you, like whatever teams consider themselves sellers, are you trying to target them, like you said, not for a UFA that's a playoff push, but for, like, if they have anybody that's a little bit older and not part of their future rebuild,
yes,
kind of that kind of target player that they're selling, and even like someone with, like you said, a little bit more contract that might just be not part of their future plan, but could be part of Buffalo's if Buffalo feels like they are 1 or 2 pieces away from already being rebuilt, which it's been going on for 14 years, so you should be rebuilt by now. But so that's kind of you're not, like, I don't know, because they don't really have the veterans to give. Like, I was trying to think of even like the playoff push teams, like that's not who you're really going after, because what are they going to give up to give to you that's going to help your team? You're going after more of the sellers, hoping that it's someone with 2-3 years left, not a playoff push for the Sabres, kind of.
Well, you could even be looking for guys that need fresh starts. Like, Dylan Cousins, I think, desperately needs a fresh start. If you send him out and send him to another team that, I'm sorry, I don't cover the rest of the league. I don't know what other players are out there. I know there's other players out there that fit this bill, but somebody like a Dylan Cousins who might be playing for another team, like a Dylan Cousins-esque, not Dylan Cousins, a Dylan Cousins-esque type of player. Bring him in, send out Dylan Cousins, and do a swap for 2 guys that need, fresh starts. Like, it could be as simple as that. Is just Dylan Cousins needs to go elsewhere to take his career and get it back on track. And this next player that might be coming in for Dylan Cousins, might need a fresh start as well. And there's spots on the top 6 to squeeze in there and get legit playing time. And to talk about veterans, there's always teams looking for depth defensemen. That's Yoki Haru. There's always teams that are looking for, and I know he's probably not going to move because Lindy Ruff loves him, but for grinder forwards, that's Jordan Greenway. Even if you don't want to trade his
playoff push.
Yes. Yeah. Even if you don't want to trade a guy like Jason Zucker, he probably carries the most amount of value on this team because he's on an expiring contract and he's playing really, really good. If he's a UFA and he really wants to come back, do what a team that we're going to be talking about in a minute goes and did. Send him out the door and then just re-sign him in free agency. But I do hope that they make some type of move to bring in a more now and future piece rather than just sell or, try to get back into the playoffs, which I already said they're not making playoffs. I'm trying to speak nicely, but I just want them to make some type of move. They've been sitting on their hands far too long, so they have to make some type of move.
Yeah, Elias Peterson, it was the one I was trying to look up. He's the one that was very circulated with Cousins, and that seems to be, I don't know a lot about him, but it seems to be a 1-for-1 similar player, like you said, not working out for Vancouver, but also Cousins not working out for the Sabres, and they just switch younger centers and see what it goes. So that kind of idea.
Yeah, but they play, again, Thursday, Carolina. They're down 3-1 after the first. You'll know before us. And then Saturday versus Montreal. We'll have both of those games on the next show. We'll move on to the Bandits here. BSC game update. We're midway through the season. 9 games have been performed, 9 games to go. We have seen injuries be a factor in this with Matt Spanger going down. There are some people out there that had Matt Spanger on their team. Again, you can't replace him. That was one of the rules. You got Dylan Cousins, who's missed back-to-back games now, but we'll go over the top 10. Not much has changed. Jackson B is still dominating, but me and Phil are inching closer.
You said Dylan Cousins.
Did I? Jackson B. Yeah, 797. I am sorry,
Dylan
Jackson
Robinson
B.
is what
Dylan
you meant.
Robinson. I'm all over the place. I'm still in the zone of us laughing nonstop. Jackson B, first place, 797. Phil is inching closer. He is under the 30 points back mark. He's 28 behind at 769. I am inching closer to Phil. I'm in third at 721. Tim K moved up one spot. He is at 691. Brooke, my wife, is at 688, one spot up in fifth. Kim D is at sixth place, up 3, 676. This is my worst nightmare. So many numbers here, Phil. Mike D falls down 3 spots, 674. Stacy K, 662, down 1 spot. Janelle L moves up 1 spot to ninth at 656. And then Nick B is back in the top 10, moves up 1 spot, 651. Again, everybody's asking, where the heck is producer Pat? We've been asking that for a bit because he's not answering his phone. He's up to 14th, 626, down 1 spot. The biggest risers, we had 4 teams move up 3 spots throughout the standings. One of them we already mentioned, Kim D up to 6th. We got Chris M up to 13th. Dan S up to 22nd, and Steven S up to 24th. So not a bunch of movement, but there were 4 teams that did move up 3 spots individually. Again, nine games to go. There's still a lot of things to be figured out, and Jackson B can falter. You and I can falter. There's teams in the top 10 that can falter. There's injuries. There's a lot of things that happens. With Dane Smith and Josh Byrne having off weeks, that means your depth players made up a difference, and Phil and I we're coming for you, Jackson. We're coming for you.
We're working on it. Dawson got that big block total for me, and that helped. That helped.
That countered at the Connor Farrell.
Yeah, I was hoping Dawson would do exactly what he did, but every game. But I'll take the big block production from the big man.
But we will continue to update that. Reminder that we update the standings on that every Wednesday because that's when the NLL finalizes their stats. So me not doing it on Sunday and then having to go back and figure out what is not correct. It's just easier to wait for them to finalize and then we update it. So every Wednesday, go check out our website, buffalosportscollective.com. Just click the Bandits Fantasy Game tab at the top and you'll see the standings right there. I also put a date of last time it was updated. So if you don't see the most updated, it's not updated yet. But other one before we start diving into stuff, again, our interview series is likely coming out every Wednesday, pending the availability of the people that we're interviewing. But don't forget to check out our interview with Rush play-by-play broadcaster Cody Jansen that came out on Wednesday to get a better understanding of the matchup with Saskatchewan on Saturday night. Again, we're trying to expand our coverage, go more Bills-esque route, because when the Bills play somebody, all the radio stations and everybody brings in people that cover the team that they're going to be facing. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're bringing in people that know the teams better than we do and are not limited knowledge, but are less inclined knowledge than these people do. Because, back to back, we had Cooper Perkins for the Seals and Cody Jansen. What better people to bring in that know those teams inside and out? And absolutely love Cody Jansen. He brought the energy. He brought the knowledge. He was a fantastic interviewee.
Yeah, I already listened to it, which is honestly, it's interesting for me because I'm not part of those interviews because you do them on your own time, which is great. But oftentimes, obviously, because I'm here for these episodes, I don't often listen back to our episodes.
I never do.
It's
never
weird.
do besides the editing.
Right.
It's the skip thing. I don't really listen to our episodes because it's a little cringeworthy.
Right. So it's interesting when BSC pops up on Spotify is like, oh, new episode. I'm like, whoa, I haven't heard this episode from my own show. I will give it a listen. It was a great interview. It really was. Jansen, like you said, brought the energy. He was really fun and engaging to listen to. I thought you did a really nice job as an interviewer. Really, really good episode and great to see coming up with the Rush game, the biggest probably in the NLL season, not just for the Bandits, but for the entire NLL season, probably the game of the year so far.
Agreed. So stay tuned for next week's, but definitely go check out Cody Jansen and go follow him on all the social media sites. He listed it at the end of that episode of where you can go find him. He's a fantastic follow, drops Saskatchewan knowledge all the time, and it's important to follow that because playoff time might happen. NLL trades. I don't know what the heck Jamie Dowick was doing. He probably got bored and then just said, we stink. Let's just send out everybody. So the first deal that went down, and this had been rumored for a couple of hours, maybe 24 hours beforehand, and it pretty much broke. Toronto was sending and did send Nick Rose, Tyler Hendricks, and a 2025 fourth-round pick to Calgary for Robert Hudson, Goa Abrams, and Calgary's 2026 first-round pick. The first-round pick in 2026 is elite because that draft is stacked. They weren't done yet. Toronto sends out Mitch DeSnoo and Chris Corbeil to Philly for their 2025 first-round pick. And that must have gotten other teams going, because Las Vegas then sent Shane Simpson to Philly for Holden Cattoni. There are still rumors out there right now as of this recording. Things still might be transpiring. The trade deadline isn't until March 10th. There's rumors that Tom Schreiber's going to Colorado. There's rumors that Brad Cree is going to Halifax. There's rumors that, and we even said it, and I mentioned it to you beforehand. I was like, if they're shipping out everybody, a perfect fit is Corey Small to San Diego. That's also rumored as well. So again, those are just rumors. Nothing's for sure yet, but the places that we were getting the rumors for, we're nailing the other ones. So that's why we're mentioning it here, because again, I think the biggest thing to note of why Toronto's doing this is all these players that they've moved out so far are going to be free agents next year, and they can reject the franchise tag. So regardless, unless they re-up for a new deal with these teams, they're going to hit free agency. And Toronto, if they wanted to, and if the players want to, they can just re-up. So Phil, what are your thoughts on the whole trades that went down, and how does that shake out with the teams that kind of made those deals?
Yeah, the the fire sale is wild. I really don't think, right, exactly. And that's the biggest thing. Like, since covering this team, and even before that, I didn't follow trades across the league as much, but since being, covering this team and covering the NLL, we have never seen a fire sale like this. We've seen a trade here or there, but nothing to this magnitude. And especially Toronto was positioned, and which is why it's crazy that they are where they are, but they had injuries and whatever other reasons you want to give them for starting 0-5. But I mean, the players and quality of players they're shipping out are extremely talented. These are not, depth players being shifted out for a third. Like, everyone they're shipping out, they're huge moves. It's not just your basic kind of, oh, this is a depth player to possibly make a push and get some insurance for an injury in playoffs. Like, these are star players that are some of the best in the league being shifted around the league to bolster other teams' playoff hopes. It's insane in a fun way. I mean, it's great for the NLL, right? It's drawing a lot of attention. It's interesting. It's exciting. A lot of people have mentioned with the unified standings, it makes trading a lot more difficult because teams just simply aren't willing to give up that they don't have a shot at playoffs. And I'm still pushing back on that if you can't, we'll throw the Rush in there for now. If you can't beat the Bandits or the Rush, what is the point of making playoffs? I know obviously you're still pushing for it, but like this, I mean, the Toronto Rock, was there a chance they could finish 6-1? Possibly. They have the team to do it, but because they knew it wasn't realistic, like, for the future for Toronto, this is beyond incredible. And like you mentioned, it's kind of annoying at this point to hear so many people be like, oh, well, let's give a farewell to Rose. And like, all right, well, realistically, they're probably all coming back. Like, is it a foregone conclusion? No. Yes, you still have to wait for the offseason, but so many of these players live in Toronto, work near Toronto, or are part of the Toronto organization in other ways. Like, they're probably going to be back. So with what Toronto's doing, it's incredible, and I hate it because they're obviously a huge rival to the Bandits, but they're going to be really, really good for years to come, especially if they can use all these draft picks to their advantage, whether it's trade them away for now talent or keep them and load up. And if they get all these players back. So for Toronto, I think it was the absolute right move to break it down, start over, and kind of not really, like, their rebuild's going to be barely an off season. Maybe if you really want to consider it, like you said, 2026 is a really big draft. So maybe 2 years it'll take them to fully rebuild, but this team's going to look really good right away again next year. It's not going to be like Albany that took a little bit to rebuild through the youth. They had a couple bad seasons, and then kind of you saw the shift in the rebuild. Toronto should be right back to the top next year, which is rough. Being a Bandits coverage person, they're doing it right, and it's frustrating that they're doing it so well.
Yeah, I'll tie this up really quick. I liked it for Halifax, even if it's just, we got to get to the playoffs, break this schneid, because I think they have the offense to win a title. I just don't think that even getting Nick Rose in between the pipes is going to fix the defense. I don't think that they're currently ready to win it, but I do think they become a threat in the playoffs. And if it's a one and done and you're going against a Saskatchewan, if you're going against a Buffalo, that is a scary matchup now with the offense that they do have. But I do not think that just getting a Nick Rose and a Tyler Hendricks is going to put them over the top.
Are you talking about Calgary?
Yes.
You said Halifax.
Sorry, Calgary. Yes, Calgary. Sorry. But I do not think that they're a title-winning team just on this move. So I do think they have
I'll ask
something
you my
else to go.
question for fun, so we're not rehashing. I have 3 questions for you. Which team do you think gained the most from all these trades of sending everything everywhere?
Philly, hands down. Getting Shane Simpson, getting Chris Corbeil and Mitch Jones to fix that back end that has been killing them because Nick DeMood has just been taking shot after shot. I think every game but one he's faced at least 58 shots, and there's people out there that have the audacity to blame Nick DeMood. I don't mind them moving Holden Cattoni because I think they think that Brendan O'Neill can take that next step and be that third threat there. So I think Philly by far made the best moves because I think Liam Patton went down with a non-contact and Scott Dominy a couple weeks ago. So they had to do something on defense, and I think they got 3 of the best pieces on defense that were out there and available.
And I guess, one of them was how you're feeling as a Toronto Rock fan, but I kind of already broke down that. So the other one, which team, I guess pretty much between Philly and Calgary, now that Calgary has Rose and has the offense they do have, which team between Calgary and Philly scares you more if they make playoffs?
Calgary, because of their offense. I think maybe I shouldn't even say that because Buffalo has had Nick Rose's number, and we'll see that back-to-back weeks coming up. But it's just Curtis Dixon's done it. Dane Dobie's done it. You've seen some of these players that are able to have a ring on their finger and have been able to do it. If they add another piece or two on that back end, they can be an absolute deadly team because I guess it'll be very interesting to see how Nick Rose plays without a stellar defense in front of him. We kind of saw bits and pieces of it to start the season. He wasn't the same goaltender. It's going to be very interesting to see when he gets the goals for him, but doesn't have the same type of defense in front of him. It could be what we were thinking before is, high scoring games, but now you have a more competent goaltender in net. And I think letting Cam McLeod learn from a Nick Rose, even in these last few games, I think it's going to be critical for his future in this league.
All right, I'm good to move on from the trades.
Perfect. And before we dive into our trades, we're going to go into our second sponsor of the show. Man, Phil, I don't know how you do this. My mouse is not scrolling down. It is Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer varieties of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
PK, we already know they are the place for the Bandits watch party. Tap That Tap Room, 8 p.m., but what we haven't done in quite a while is a nice pairing to go with that watch party.
I haven't had
PK.
one of you do this for me, so I'm ready for this.
Okay, PK's ready. I'm getting the loaded nachos with queso, melted shredded cheese, black beans, onion, jalapeno, shredded grilled chicken, tomato, and sour cream. Extremely loaded nachos. And normally with our drink pairing, we go a bit interesting, but this time I'm going a bit more traditional, and I'm keeping it nice and fresh with the Crispy Boys American Light Lager by Prison City Brewing. I think a light, refreshing beer to go with those nachos, and that pairing sounds great to me.
Hang on, I got this.
Oh boy, he's writing my score down.
Hang on.
Oh boy, he's got too many pages to flip through.
This is why you go to YouTube.
Okay, out of 10. I can't see. We got a 10. 10 out of 10. He loves it. And you can check out all of their other posted events on their Facebook page and go to tapthattaproom.com to see what's on tap and what's on deck. They have something
for everyone. Phil, we still haven't gotten any money from this. We're going to have to talk to them.
We'll talk
shortly. Especially if they use TM. Can't steal it now. Like we mentioned, trade deadline is the 10th of March. Just a few short days and less than 2 weeks away. Phil, I know you have some targets here. We both went through this. We went over each team, tried to find out which team is the best fit for Buffalo and which player would be the best fit if Buffalo is going to be making a deal, because you know Steve Dietrich doesn't like to sit on his hands. He likes to be involved. Latest rumor was, he was trying to get in on Brad Cree, and Toronto asking price was. Toronto and Buffalo don't make good trade partners. It's just not going to work out. They don't want to see each other do good, so why would they try to help each other out? And why would Toronto want to benefit and give one of the best defenders in the league to Buffalo to go three-peat and
other than
see,
just,
we did and you couldn't. But I guess I'm going to give it to you because I personally couldn't find anybody that the Bandits would really be interested in because really there's not a lot of teams that are selling. Toronto already is. I already mentioned that. Albany's too young. I can't find anybody on there. The only one would be Vegas, and it's just maybe a Brandon Goodwin from Vegas. That was the only name I could think of. But my feeling is maybe you get a Bryce Sweeting back because Chugger said in the offseason, maybe March, if you can get Bryce Sweeting back, that's your addition by not making a trade. So to me, it's there's not much on the trade front just because of the 9 teams that either have 5 or 6 wins. It's tough. It's tough right now. But I know you got names, so shoot from your head.
I have 4, and Goodwin is at the top of my list for sure. I think he is number 1 for me. I'll go over why in a moment, but I'll start with my ones that probably aren't going to happen. And so these 2 are from Rochester. Now, I know Rochester is still in it, so these 2 would come probably at a price, and the price would probably be a young defender to replace an aging defender for a team that is competing, so they can have somebody step in, even though they'd be a rookie, still step in and possibly make some noise, but also help them in their future. So these 2 names, we'll see if you're interested in either. I got Brad Gillies and your boy Chad Tutton. Both are UFAs at the end of the year. He's thinking.
I'm thinking.
He's thinking.
I still love Chad Tutton, but I just don't think he's the same type of player anymore.
So far, 12 games, he's got 9 caused turnovers, 9 blocks, 65 loose balls, 2 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah, it's going to be a no for me. I'm a no for both. I did see both those names, and I'm still
all right.
a no.
And then Albany was the one that they mentioned. I think it was
Watkinson.
Yeah. Who was I listening to?
Clem
so many
from
podcasts.
Class.
Yeah, that they mentioned. He's the only UFA. I think they have 1 or 2 other ones, but of the ones they give up, I think Watkinson would be the only one. He is their captain, but the big thing with all these trades, like, to me, Albany is a team that could turn it around because of what they did last year. So they are a team that maybe still believes in themselves, and Watkinson did just come back recently from injury, so he is playing. But again, if they can get maybe a young defender in return or another draft pick or probably a young defender, Watkinson could be expendable. But again, like I was going to say, that UFAs are UFAs for a reason. They can get him back at the end of the season. So it's not like he's gone from Albany forever. It would just be this year, but they both saw each other in the championship finals last year. So similar to Toronto, I'm sure they don't want to give their captain to the Buffalo Bandits, but for Albany, he was the other main one I saw other than Goodwin.
Yeah, I think he would have been more obtainable had they lost last week, but getting back to 3 wins. I know they already have 8 losses, and that's the number you really want to look at.
So if because there's still a week before
that's true,
the trade deadline, if they lose again and are further from the playoff picture and they get a little bit sell happy or decide they want to at least sell somebody, and they become a partner. That was kind of where I was at with them, is if they lost again. If they win next week, I do think they will go all in and push for playoffs. But if they lose, then maybe he becomes available. And then Goodwin, I did like him the most by far. He was originally drafted 9th overall by the Bandits, which is just kind of fun. But in the 11 games so far, he's got 15 caused turnovers, 5 blocks, 50 loose balls, 5 goals on just 11 shots and 4 assists. He's pretty much the transition type player that I would want them to get in this situation. I do think could be attainable. I don't know how or why at a league leading brutal negative 38 goal differential, Las Vegas Desert Dogs think they have a shot at the title. I know they just knocked out Colorado like it was nothing. But that's still a long, long way to climb for them to get all the way to the title. So seeing them as still going for it is crazy to me. Like any of these 3-8 teams, realistically, like the fact that Toronto was willing to tear it all down with the team they had, and Vegas, you're telling me, is going to push it instead, blows my mind. So if that is true, good luck. But if it's not true, I think Goodwin would be a really good one for the Bandits to kind of go after. and replace Spanger as that transition, very similar style player that the Bandits could look for depth or just a starting defender.
Just double checking something really quick.
All right. I don't know how to stall.
I agree with
just thought
Vegas.
for a while.
They should be selling just because, they are. Okay, I checked it. Chad Tutton is not a UFA next year.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't think he was.
I didn't know what that meant, but we don't have to go over that.
Yeah, he is. He's still got one more year after this. That was the one I was checking. I just wanted to get that one back right because we didn't want people to say, "Hey, he signed a 2-year deal." Blah blah blah. Yeah, we fixed it.
Ignore Tutton.
Yeah, ignore Tutton. Yeah, Godwin was really the only good one. I apologize. I keep going back to football. I traded for him and then he got hurt and dynasty. Blah blah blah.
Chris.
Godwin is really the only one I would target.
Good.
Like Vegas, good one. I did it. Good one, and I did it again. With the Albany factor, they actually play 2 more times before the trade deadline, so that would be they could be 3-10, they could be 5-8. So I do think that the next 2 weeks for them are very important to find out if they're going to be sellers or not. So Vegas, I do not think has any hope of making playoffs whatsoever. I know they just had a big win, but even adding a Holden Cattoni, I don't think they have the steady goaltender, as Maggie shakes her head below me, that to really make any big type moves. So to me, it's good win.
There it is.
Or it's nothing. I still think it's going to be.
I agree.
It might be Sweeting, really, or it could be a player with term. So we can't ignore that aspect of it. I just don't know if
strictly UFAs.
Albany is still young. I don't know why they would move any of their guys that are young and have rights remaining with the team. Vegas is the same way, but a lot of their pieces, Casey Jackson, he doesn't really add value to this team because he's a forward. So, and then Rock are not going to be traded with Buffalo. So the rest of the teams are.
That was my problem. Like I was thinking about younger players, but if they're all rebuilding, you're not giving away young talent. So I kind of ignored all of that.
So that pretty much wraps up the aspect of that. As Brandon it gets Goodwin. Closer, there's still deals out there that are going to be they're being made, but we'll see if Buffalo's in on any of them. I know they're going to be making calls because Dietrich does not like to sit around, but they have some picks to trade and young players to move around as well. So there are moves out there if he wants to be a little creative, and maybe you can swing a deal with somebody.
Their 8th overall pick from last year isn't even on the team yet.
Right, that's what's absolutely insane. But we will move on here with the preview. Bandits 8-1 versus the 9-2 Rush. Everybody has had this game circled 4 months now. This is a reminder, though. Chase Frazier was appealing his suspension. He might not go in this one. We have not gotten any word about it yet, so we'll probably find out on Friday if he is fully suspended or not for this game, but that is something to keep of note. But Buffalo, goals for 15, they're first. Saskatchewan, 12.64, they're fifth. Goals against is very, very close. Saskatchewan is third at 10.09. Buffalo is fourth, 10.56. The power play, no, they're very close. Buffalo, 44%. That weekend series with San Diego definitely helped them. They're tied for 7th. Saskatchewan is tied for 11th at 42%. And then the penalty kill, Buffalo is 58% at 5th. Saskatchewan, 62%, tied for 2nd. So the numbers are very, very similar for both of these teams. That's why they're both very similar in the standings. I know the Rush were kind of trolling a bunch of people saying, hey, we got 9 wins, we're in first place, and everybody's going, that's not how it works. And I go, yeah, that is how it works. We're in first place. So there's a little troll jobs already getting in on it. I absolutely love what the Saskatchewan Rush are doing social media-wise. It's fun. It gets people talking. But these two teams they couldn't be more close together right now. We both said in the offseason that was one of our bolder predictions, especially for you. Saskatchewan was going to be making the playoffs, but we both had them finishing 8th. They're already sitting 9-2. They both these teams are pretty much not locked into playoffs, but 1 or 2 more wins, getting to 9 and 10 wins, you're pretty much locking it in. This game is going to be absolutely fantastic because I can't wait for Saturday night.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And I mean, speaking of it, because you just brought it up, I think the thing I'm most concerned about is the Saskatchewan Rush media team. I don't think you want to lose this game and allow them any leniency to rip you apart on the social medias. They are fantastic. They do a really, really good job, and they won't make it easy, and they will let you know that you lost. So if for no other reason, I need the Bandits to win just to keep that media team at bay. And honestly, I don't think they will, but I think the Bandits need something for response ready for a media team that is really over the top in the rush. I think the Bandits need something, anything more than just posting yay for the win. They need some kind of snap ready if they do in fact win. They gotta chirp back if they get it.
Yeah, I mean, I like their Valentine's thing when they beat Toronto.
Exactly.
So if you had something like that, but like next level, because you know Saskatchewan's going to bring it.
They got
to
something
you,
already. They probably have a whole skit already done.
Oh, no question. They've been thinking about this for weeks now. But last year, it was the game of the year, as close to the game of the year as you could possibly be. Buffalo, 15-14 in overtime. Every single goal marker, Phil, it was tied. So it was tied 1-1 and 2-2 and 3-3 all the way up to 14. Shots were 61-54 in favor of Saskatchewan. Buffalo 21-6 in favor at the faceoff. Connor Farrell absolutely went crazy. Power play 3 for 3 for Buffalo, 0 for 3 for Saskatchewan. But the numbers in this one were just bananas. Church had 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points, and 16 shots. Keenan 3, 4, and 7 on 11 shots. Mans 1, 3, and 4. You had Messenger with 11 loose balls. You had Kidd with 10 loose balls. Gallant, Barnable, and Smith each had 2 caused turnovers each. Boudreau wasn't as involved, but he's deadly. And then Triolo, the giant tree man in the middle of the field, 3 assists, 8 shots on net, 5 loose balls, and a caused turnover. But then you look forward to what Buffalo was able to do, and Frankie in that 39-54. But this was a big Nanticoke game, 4-2 and 6-7 shots on net. He was getting in front of the net and beating Chiliano. You had Kluch 3 goals. You had McKay 1, 4, and 5. This was a game where you didn't even have a Paul Dawson yet. You had a Corey Highfield, a Dalton Solver, a Frank Brown in the lineup. So, and you had 3 goalies on the active roster at that point. We're still going back and forth. So it will be a little bit different of a Buffalo Bandits game. Again, maybe no Frazier in this one, who had 3 assists on 4 shots last time, but it's going to be a offensive showdown, and we'll get into the playoffs in a minute, or players in a minute, but I couldn't be more excited. I really do think that this is going to be the game of the year. Not just because it's the 1 and 2 teams, but just because of how skilled these 2 teams are. If you told me tomorrow that I had to pick 2 teams to make the NLL Finals, it would be Buffalo versus Saskatchewan.
Yeah, and I think for this kind of game, even going over the Buffalo forwards that you did, with how quiet in their own regard they've been fine, but quiet for their standards, I think it's going to need to be a big Smith and Byrne game. Yes. You're going to need your all-stars to come out on fire, stand on their head. They're going to have to show why they are 1 and 2 in the league and go back to being not just dominant for the league, but extremely dominant to the level that they were last year of being 1 and 2, and the level they are this year of averaging 8-9 points a game. Like, they've been a little bit quiet by, again, their standards, which are extremely elite, but I think they need to go right back to that. Like, this has to be a very heavy Smith and Byrne game, one way or the other. They need to be not only involved, they need to be heavily involved, and they need to take over a game like this.
So before we dive into the players of Saskatchewan, and we'll kind of fly through those more because this is going to be a teaser to go listen to the interview with Cody Jansen. We pretty much go over every single player there, and that's why I kind of do this. We both listen to that interview back, and it's easier to talk about these players, getting a little bit more knowledge of it. We're going to go over our third sponsor of the show, the Totally Buffalo Store.
The Totally Buffalo Store, their mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with 100 local artisans. They are your place to go when you need a gift for a friend or just want to shop around for something for yourself. They offer 3 locations, 1 in Amherst, 1 in Orchard Park, and 1 in Lewiston.
Phil, we say it all the time. They're the best place to go, especially for Bandits apparel. Everybody in Banditland is always asking for newer and original Bandit material. Especially Zumbas. And this is the place I'm going to go to grab my stuff. I'm going to grab myself a Banditland orange t-shirt. My wife takes a water bottle everywhere, so I'm going to be grabbing her a 40-ounce orange and black tumbler. And then today, this Friday, is the final day for the 20% off the modern decal items in the Amherst and Orchard Park locations. So I messed up that word, didn't I?
Just starting to, I don't know what it is with the ad read specifically, but I am
It's getting you.
breaking
It's
on
getting
them.
you.
Yeah,
He's
you got
crying
20% off Modern Decay,
Yeah.
which is
But it's
no
that's
one
where I'm
wants to buy any
going.
Modern Decay.
I saw an absolutely fantastic Bandits one. It was a Bandits Buffalo Orange. This all the snow's melting, so might as well put it out front and just showcase it to everybody. So the other benefit is they work with local artisans. We've already seen it. Phil mentioned it, over 100 local artisans. And it's not like this is a big box store where you're going to see like, okay, there's 100 of these same shirts. It's in different colors or whatnot. Because it's all local artisans, it's going to be fantastic stuff. And you're not going to be able to get this stuff at like a Walmart or at the Sabres store. So I think that's another reason to go shop at the Totally Buffalo store, because it's got awesome apparel and there's so much original stuff that you can't get anywhere else. So go check out their Facebook and Instagram pages and check out their website at the Totally Buffalo Store.com. We'll go over some key players here, Phil, and we don't have to go into great depth, so we can tease it a little bit more and go force people to go listen to the Cody Jansen interview. But the forwards are absolutely star-studded, and they're so deep as well, and you're not going to know really what their starting lineup looks like. You could throw out Levi Anderson, who was a first-round pick, 12th overall in 2023. He's only played in 5 games, but the games he's played, and he's got 12 points. The other lefties are Ryan Keenan. You got Zach Mans, and Clark Walter comes in, and last game he put in 3 goals on his former team in Vancouver. You can look at the righties. Robert Church is still doing Robert Church things. Austin Shanks coming over from Halifax. He's lighting up the lamp. Mike Triolo has played in every game right now, and he's being that steady tree in the middle of the offense. And then the rookie, who pretty much came over for free from Vancouver, Brock Haley. First round pick, 7th overall last year. He's got 27 points on the year. So this team is not just loaded with veteran savvy players, but they got some rookies coming in as well that can also put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, the biggest thing when looking at this team, so if you're a Bandits fan, like most of our listeners, you look up a Josh Byrne with 71 points. You look up a Dane Smith with 78 points. You look at the Rush and you say, okay, their top, points guy is 53. How are they, how are we comparing the Bandits offense to the Rush offense if there's 20 points of a difference between their top players, and the Bandits have 2 of those? But the big thing with the Rush is that they're very balanced. They have a 53, a 47, 47, 44, 27, whereas the Bandits, yes, their offense is balanced at times, but for the most part, obviously it runs through Smith and runs through Byrne. They had 78, 71, then their next one's 34, 29. So points-wise, the Rush just have it a little bit more spread out evenly amongst all of their players. They don't really have a true alpha on either side. They don't have that one main guy who's just taking all the points or is just that elite. They're very balanced, very spread out, which makes them that much more dangerous because you don't have one guy you can shut down. You have to shut down most of their offense because any of them could have, like you said, that monster game. Even guys who aren't getting in the lineup can just come in and have that monster game. So they have a very balanced attack that, again, on paper, black and white doesn't look all that exciting, but when you really dive into the numbers, it's just a very balanced attack compared to the Bandits, who have 2 of the greatest players in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. You got Ryan Keenan, Zach Mans, Robert Church, and Austin Shanks. All 4 of them are in the top 34 in points. And
right.
that when I was talking to Cody Jansen, that's what he said is if Zach Mans is having a down game, Ryan Keenan's going to step up. If Austin Shanks his shot's not falling, you got Robert Church there. And then you look at the next scorers, you got Mike Triolo, who's just an animal out there, like 6'7". You got Levi Anderson, who can come in. He's got 12 points on the year. Or the rookie Brock Haley. He's got 11, 16, and 27. So if one player is not having a great game, you can rely on somebody else. And that's kind of what he said about Buffalo, is they're so deep that if you do shut down a Josh Byrne, you got Chris Cloutier who can pump in 4. So that's what their offense is. Not based on the numbers and history, they're not on the level of Buffalo, but I think they're right below them just on the skill. They don't have a top guy like a Dane or a Josh, but they have 4 guys that they can rely on night in and night out. But the transition in defense, Cody Jansen said it, and I fully agree. And every time I've seen them, I agree with it. They're the fastest team on the floor in the league. They got Ryan Barnable, who's a former first-round pick, Jake Boudreau, who's up there for Transition Player of the Year, Holden Gallant, who's a former first-round pick, Matt Hosick, who comes over from the dispersal draft, he's up there for Defensive Player of the Year, if not the leader in the clubhouse right now. Adam Jay, who comes over in the Mark Matthews deal. Bobby Kidd, who's an early draft pick as well. But another one is Mike Messenger right now, who doesn't have to take the faceoffs this year. He's able to just rely on transition, and he's pumping in the goals a little bit more now. He's still only got 2 on the year, but he's getting more hot there. He's 9th in loose balls in the league, 5th in caused turnovers, 6th in block shots, and he's still winning 45% when Jake Naso was out. So their transition game, if they get going, they're going to be able to hang with Buffalo. And to me, and I even asked Cody Jansen this, and I think he agreed with me, their transition game is going to and possibly could give Buffalo fits just because of how fast they are. And we kind of saw bits and pieces of that versus San Diego in the last 2 games. Buffalo kind of struggled a little bit with that. Because of their speed and their tenacity in that department, I think that is, I would give Saskatchewan the edge in the transition game.
For sure. It's something that Buffalo really just doesn't have. It doesn't exist. And we've talked about it to death at this point, but if you haven't heard us talk about it, it's because the Bandits offense is elite, and oftentimes even Priolo
because they wanted more, and they said, Mickey, come up here, screw the transition game, just be full-time forward.
And Priolo has mentioned it a lot, where he said, oftentimes we just give it up to our offense, we know how good they are, we run off the field. So comparing them isn't, to me, exactly fair, but at the same time, the Rush transition game is elite. It's not just comparing Buffalo's and the Rush's transition game. Their transition game can mess up a game real quick. They're very fast. They can get those odd man opportunities, and it's going to be a big point of emphasis for the Bandits defense and the Bandits forwards to try to back check on a lot of those situations. And if the Bandits can control the transition game for the Rush and keep it to a slower paced game, I think that will give them the edge. But if the Rush, like you mentioned, can use that speed and kind of take off and get the game as just kind of always running, especially if the Bandits end up behind a little bit and then they have to keep their offense out there longer, or they're kind of switching it up on offense and it allows the game to open up a little bit more, the transition could be what sinks the Bandits in a game like this. And in your opinion, what would the Bandits need to do to stop that transition? Is it simply the forwards getting back to help back check? Is it trying to get off the field with 5 seconds left on the shot clock? Which, again, if that's the case, that hinders your offensive possession as a whole, which is the whole reason you have a threat of a transition game. But what do you think the Bandits need to do to try to stop that a little bit?
So that was going to be one of my thoughts. Is I'm going to be very interested to see how they counteract the transition game, the speed from this team. I was wondering, hey, is this going to be one of those games where you just you when it gets down to 5 seconds, you start getting off the field quicker, and then that's times where you see a Kyle Buchanan battle for it. He comes up with it, and there's nobody around him because everybody's getting off the field. But because their back check has been so great and the pressure that the forwards put on the defenders back there to try to get caused turnovers, to me, I would fight fire with fire. If transition game is going to be in the favor of Saskatchewan, which I think we both agree that it will be, it favors them, I think you got to gamble a few times. Not every single time, but I think a few times you got to see like a Scanlon if he's in the game and a Josh Byrne double team on somebody and try to get the ball back. If you Kyle Buchanan and a Nanakoke double team on somebody, because I do trust a Dane Smith on defense. I trust the Josh Byrne on defense. That's one of the benefits of this team is they're so good defensively from these forward group that if you do get stuck up on defense, it's not just going to be somebody that just does not care on defense. It's going to be somebody that's going to give it their all and play as good defensively as they can. So to me,
and is decent at it.
Yeah, and I would like to see them play more of the style that we saw versus Toronto that first time, where I believe they caused 9 caused turnovers in that first matchup. I would like to see them stay out there for the full shot clock and battle it out. And if you can't, bust your butt to the bench. It can't be anybody that's just jogging the last 5 feet. You have to get to the bench. If you lose the angle on a guy, you have to get to the bench to get this defense out. And I think one of the benefits of that is because of how much the defense had to work last week and the interchangeable pieces that they had. You had LaRue back there. You had Ian McKay play half shifts back there as well. they were tired from last week. If it's the same rotation coming into this game, there's going to be tired legs back there, especially for the long trip. If you're able to buy more time for the defense to get set up, I think that favors the defense a little bit and giving Saskatchewan shot clock. If you can keep them down to when the whole offense is out at like 18 seconds left on the shot clock, I think that favors Buffalo. But we'll go over the goalie right now. Prison Frankie, he's having the best season of his career. I don't know if it's just him being fueled because he's a new father now. Congratulations to him and his family. Or just Thomas Kazik in his back pocket now after 2 stellar games. But he is so laser focused. I asked Cody Jansen this. He said it's just early starts that's used to struggle for him. He just doesn't struggle anymore. He more dials in. He's able to fight through it. He's 7-2 with a 9.6 goals against, which is 3rd in the league, and he's 79% save percentage, which is tied for 2nd. He is on an absolute heater this season. He's a different type of player, and he's not that inconsistent Frankie Scigliano that we used to see in the past. He's prison Frankie right now that is in the yard and is playing for keeps.
Why is he nicknamed Prison Frank?
I don't know, but I love the nickname.
All right, that's
I
fair.
think it's because he comes out for blood on Twitter. I believe that's how we get his nickname, but I could be wrong. I should have asked Cody that.
Don't listen to this show, Frank. We're cool. We're cool.
We love you.
Yeah. No, I agree. He's having a really, really big season this year. I think he's proving the haters wrong. There's a lot for goaltending. It is a very thankless job in the NLL. You're just constantly yelled at and ridiculed no matter how good you are. For all the Vince haters out there, when the greatest of all time is getting yelled at on a weekly basis, pretty much everybody is. But there was a lot of concern, like you mentioned, second half of games, Frank's inconsistency, but this year dialed in like no other, and he's going to be really tough to beat. Now, the Bandits, we've talked about it a lot, have yet to score under 13 goals in a game. Is this one where they are held to under 13, or is this a game where their offense is just simply that elite and pretty much can't be stopped? It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a good test for both sides. I think Frank is going to put up a really good fight against them, but at the same time, we know what the Bandits offense can do.
So definitely go listen to that interview with Cody Jansen. I'm going to plug these nonstop, so you better go listen to these.
You're putting the time and effort in.
We learned more from him. We just went over all the players here as well. Phil,
before prediction, Naso, is he back?
Naso is back. He was up back last game.
How do you think he's going to do against Fair?
It's going to be a very interesting one because he dominated Jake Withers the first time through. He's dominated some players, but his face-off win percentage has dropped back a little bit more towards earth at 58%. That's going to be a very fun battle because we saw what Connor Farrell was able to do with James Riley, who I think is going to be a very good face-off man in this league as well. I just read an article, I think it was Graham Perreault, who pretty much said like face-offs no longer matter anymore because everybody's just so good at them. There's not really a number one guy anymore. So I think it's going to be close to like a 60-40, 50-50 split at the dot. I don't think either one of them is going to dominate the other more than not. I think it's just going to come down to when you win those faceoffs. I want to see what Connor Farrell did last week repeat this week. Not
to get really into it because we're running long, but it is interesting to see more and more teams grab a faceoff guy.
Yes.
In the last probably 2 years. I think before that, like you've mentioned before, you had the top 3, 4, 5 guys, and that was it. Everybody else was just throwing out whatever they could. Now it seems like everybody is trying to grab a faceoff guy, whether it's face-off only or face-offs in general. It seems like every team's trying to find their guy for the dot, and I think it's an interesting shift we've seen in the NLL.
So, Phil, prediction-wise, we forgot to do this last week, but we're doing it now. We won't forget again. What is your prediction for Buffalo at Saskatchewan?
I think it's going to be extremely close. I think it's going to be similar to the San Diego game. I'm giving Buffalo the dub. I refuse to go against them, but if there ever was a game to go against Buffalo, it would probably be this one. But I am letting them win 13-12.
Phil, I have to say something. We picked the exact same score, except I have Saskatchewan winning this one.
Are they your new favorite team now that Toronto's dead?
Apparently. I do love Jake Boudreau. I love Mike Messenger. We made the joke on, talking to Cody Jansen that we were talking about getting Mike Messenger in free agency, and then we were like, yeah, there's no way he's leaving Saskatchewan. There's no way Saskatchewan's going to let him leave.
Nice.
13-12 loss. If not for just seeing what Saskatchewan puts on social media, that's kind of, I love the troll jobs. I love the pot stirring. They're as good as anybody with it. But yeah, I really do think Buffalo's defense has been a bit shaky, and I don't think you want to be going against another great offense right now while you're trying to figure it out. I'm not saying Buffalo is going to lose a championship. I'm not saying that they're going to miss the playoffs. I'm not even saying they're going to lose the number 1 seed. I just think Saskatchewan right now is on an absolute heater. So I will give Saskatchewan the 1-goal edge. And I think Adam Levy tweeted us earlier today when I put out my power rankings, hey, if Saskatchewan wins, does that mean they take over the number 1 spot? I was like, well, I already said that I picked Saskatchewan, but I think the only way that I don't move Buffalo down to 2 if this result happens and Saskatchewan beats them is if it's a super close matchup, there's some unforeseen injury that Buffalo has, and Chase Frazier is injured. I think that's the only, or suspended. I think that's the only way I can't make the switch is if it's a close game, Buffalo loses by 1, and all those other things happen. But it's going to be a fantastic game.
30 seconds to answer it. We're running long. Who is this a bigger game for? Do you think it's bigger that the Bandits come out and prove that they are the number 1 team and try to crush everybody? Or do you think it's bigger for the Rush to show that they are the number 1 team, or if not, a true championship contender? Like, which team do you think this game is bigger for if they win?
I think it's the Rush. Buffalo's already shown that they can make the run through the playoffs as a number 4 seed. Saskatchewan hasn't made the playoffs in a while. They have to prove that they're up for the task against the bigger dogs. I think the pressure is more on them. But I think this is a type of team that can live in that type of pressure. So to me, it's Saskatchewan. That's why another reason why I'm not all that worried if Buffalo does drop this, because been there, done that. They were 5-6 last year. So yeah, I'm not worried about Buffalo if they do end up dropping this one. But it's everybody's favorite time of the show. It's the fastest milestone minute. Here we go, Phil. I'm making him laugh. You see the lacrosse ball in his hands. He's breaking down once again. All of these possible milestones can be found on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. We post them leading up to each game, so if you miss one and you don't want to listen back, you can check for them there. We got quite a few, and I got a nice little surprise at the end for you. Away we go. Ian McKay is 4 points away from tying a career high in points. Dane Smith is 1 goal away from 400 for his career. He averages 2.12 a game. Nick Weiss is 2 loose balls away from 900 for his career. He averages 5.87 a game. Steve Perillo is 9 loose balls away from 1,400 for his career. Yeah, that's a lot of loose balls. He averages 6.13 a game. Dane Smith is 4 points away from passing Gary Gait for 10th place in NL history. He averages 6.18 a game. Phil, get it together, man. Dane Smith is 6 assists away from tying John Tavares for 10th place in a single Buffalo Bandits season with 64 set in 2001. He's 7 away from tying himself for 65 set in 2016 for 9th place. And he is 8 away from tying Sean Evans for 8th with 66 set in 2019. Steve Priolo is 1 assist away from tying Micah Kersey for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages .72 a game. And Connor Farrell is 13 faceoffs away from tying Darius Kilgore for 9th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 28.94 a game. He is 34 away from tying Ian McKay for 8th place.
You said all these milestones would stack.
Told you.
They're stacking. They're stacking right now.
Time.
And a lot of familiar faces on there, but I will let you get to your big part.
Yeah, you mentioned this on the last show, and I think everybody's going to love it. So this is called the Farrell Total Frenzy.
I like it.
If we had a graphic, milk would be popping out of my head right now. Jay Thurnberg is number 1 in faceoffs and faceoff wins for this team in franchise history. Connor Farrell is 1,741 away from tying Jay Thurnberg for first place in Buffalo Bandits history in faceoffs. He is averaging 28.94 a game. He would need to play in 60.16 more games to pass that at his current pace. Now, he is 1,037 faceoff wins away from Jay Thurnberg for first place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 16.75 faceoff wins per game. He would need to keep that pace and play in 61.91 games to pass Jay. So these numbers are more realistic than I thought they would be, but he still has a ways to go to get there.
So, I mean, it's Yeah, not terrible. I mean, we'll say
Right?
the Bandits make playoffs for the next 3 years and play at least 2 games. I mean, you're looking at 20.
Well, these are
20
just regular
games.
season, remember.
Oh,
This is
okay,
just
okay.
regular season numbers.
Still, 4 years.
So he's like, less than 4 years away
Yeah,
at this
than
current pace.
3.5. Yeah, not as far off, like you said, as I would
Right.
have thought. It seems like a lot right now. 60 games is still a lot of games to not only be at this level, but to continue playing through. I don't know how old Farrell is.
I think he's 27.
Okay, so he's
27-ish?
got plenty of time. Plenty of time. So yeah, Farrell, be on the team for 4 more years, and you're going to cement yourself as a Buffalo Bandits legend.
Don't worry, I'm looking right now. Connor Farrell is exactly 27, and he
he's got
will
plenty
be
of time.
28 the end of this month. End of March the 25th. That would be his birthday. But we got 4 games to talk about real quick. NL Outlook, some major playoff implications on this one. 6-4 Swarm head to the 5-5 Ottawa Black Bears Friday at 7 p.m. Another Friday 7 p.m. game. 3-8 Albany goes to 5-7 Rochester. Either one of those teams loses, they might be out because either Albany's going to 9 losses or Rochester's going to 8. 2 6-5 teams. Calgary goes to Colorado Saturday at 9 p.m. and then 6-4 Halifax goes to 3-8 Vegas. One more loss by Vegas goes to 9. Best they can finish is 9-9 Saturday at 10 p.m. Some big time games, especially when there's only 4 other ones going on this week.
I don't think between Ottawa and Georgia we're going to find out which team is which at all.
Agreed.
I think those teams are so ridiculously
It's going to be like
hot and
a
cold.
9-8 game. It's
Yeah.
going to be gross.
Or 5-5 and goes to overtime, 6-5 victory. I don't know. That's
Don't
going
you
to
do that to
be
me.
it's going to be ugly. Albany Rochester. I kind of hope Albany loses. Maybe get some Watkinson up in a Buffalo Bandits uniform. That would be nice. Rochester, same thing. There's also still. I mean, both those teams are trying to prove that they deserve to be in the playoffs and what their team really is. Calgary, Colorado, both had bummer losses last week, so they're both trying to avenge what happened last week to them. I think it's really good that Calgary has a game with Nick Rose before the Bandits play them, just to see how their defense handles him.
Yes.
I know the Bandits have obviously played against Nick Rose even twice this year already, so they know him, but how is that defense going to play with Nick Rose behind them and just kind of see their different tendencies and see what they kind of figure out. So I think it's good to get some tape there. And then Halifax is ridiculously hot right now. I don't see them losing to Vegas, but if Vegas can pull off the upset, I still don't think you're a great team headed to playoffs, but congratulations, and it'd be nice to cool off Halifax a little bit. They are looking real good.
Yeah, so stay tuned for those games coming up this weekend. Like I said, major playoff implications. But Phil, we're a little bit over the hour mark. Any more things to add to the show before we shut it down and get ready for our Monday show? Maybe we'll have a better intro next time.
No, I'm good. We gotta get out of here.
Yeah, Phil's going to have a laughing spell right after this. We got
I
2
am.
Sabres games to go over. The next game, we'll break down any other trades that happen, even though I can't imagine any happen this week, and it'll probably happen early next week, especially with these games going on. And, we'll break down these Sabres. We'll break down the Bandits versus Rush game. Don't forget to go check out that interview with Cody Jansen before the teams take the field. So with that, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Phil is already losing it, man. He couldn't even last till the end of the episode. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article dropped on Tuesday. Mine dropped on Thursday. Check out our store on our link tree on our socials or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.